Hi, I'm Ken Oakes with Oakes Daylilies. We get questions from time to time. What are the difference between the species daylilies and the hybrid daylilies? And then we also get questions kind of related to that. Are daylilies invasive? And so we'll talk about that in this video. I'll show you an example of what the species daylilies are, and then we'll talk about what the hybrid daylilies are, which is everything that we sell and pretty much most of the stuff you're going to find in commerce out there. So that's what this video is about. Okay, so here behind me we have an example of one of the common species daylilies. This is Hemerocallis fulva, which is commonly known as the roadside daylily here in East Tennessee. At least they're up and down the roadsides in the ditches. Ditch lily is another name for it. Some people call it tiger lily, but people use that name for other things as well. But you may recognize this one from your area. This is one of the species. There were, I'm not sure, a dozen or so species daylilies, and way back when, that's what folks used to cross and to make all of the hybrid daylilies that we have today. And of course a hybrid is made by crossing. And the species, one of the reasons folks sometimes think that daylilies can be invasive is they may be referring to this particular variety, and it retains the trait that it will send out runners underground, right? So you can see we had just maybe a smaller patch of this here when I bought the property. We just left it 30 years ago, and now it's expanded to this big area right here, pretty solid. And so what can happen is if you plant these in a bed, they will kind of creep and expand. We get the the question sometimes, hey, my daylilies all turned orange. Well, I think what happened was this was in the same bed and it just took over. So that's the species. Now we don't sell these because we don't want to put this in somebody's garden where it would creep and expand. And I'm going to show you an example here of what the hybrid daylilies look like. They come in, of course, every color except for blue, and then they do not creep like this. They just clump up. So I'll show you a video of that here in just a second. All right, so behind me here I have an example of, this is a bed full of hybrid daylilies, which is, like I mentioned, everything that we sell and pretty much everything you're going to find in commerce are the hybrid daylilies. And this is a really good example of a clump of a hybrid daylily. This has been here a long time and it's very big, but you can see this is what it does. It just gets bigger and bigger in the clump. You can see there next to it is another one. It's not spreading out by runners like the species do. It's just going to sit here and get bigger and bigger, but it will never run and expand and spread throughout to take over your bed like the roadside or species daylilies could. So, and then obviously you can see, look at all the different colors as opposed to the species, which is just a very limited selection of species daylilies. We got everything in hybrid daylilies, pretty much everything except blue. This is a nice little light pink. This is Bordello Queen, I think is the name of this one, but there you go. Good example of a hybrid daylily. So we've grown daylilies for over 40 years. We like to talk about all things daylily. If you have any questions or comments, you can put them below, or our contact information is on the website. We've shot lots of videos about all things daylilies, so you might want to check some of those out. And hey, we appreciate you watching.